The morning in Manhattan carried its usual weight of hurried footsteps, impatient taxi horns, and the restless hum of talk radio filtering through cafes and cabs alike. Howard Stern's studio, perched high above the bustle, was a place where celebrities often braced themselves for questions no publicist could fully shield them from. It was a place of raw honesty, controversy, and, sometimes, spectacular implosions. Today's guest was Meghan Markle, and the building's atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Even the producers whispered as though they sensed the clash about to unfold. Meghan arrived with calculated poise, her team trailing behind her, whispering reminders of talking points and scripted charm. Her smile was polished but stiff, betraying the nerves beneath. She wanted to reclaim her narrative, to show the world she was more than tabloid caricatures. Yet the choice to come on Stern's show raised eyebrows. Howard was notorious for cutting through carefully constructed facades. Meghan thought she could handle him. She didn't realize he was preparing to handle her. As the red light blinked on, Howard leaned into the microphone, his signature gravelly voice filling the room. He introduced Meghan with a mix of sarcasm and flattery, describing her as the most talked about woman in modern royalty who somehow managed to escape the palace walls but not the headlines. Meghan laughed politely, though her eyes darted to her publicist behind the glass. The game had begun. Howard started light, asking about her acting career and the transition from Hollywood to royal life. Meghan answered smoothly, rehearsed lines flowing like water, but Howard quickly pressed. He asked about the infamous rift with the royal family, the rumors about staff, the Netflix deal. Meghan tried to keep her composure, but the sharp edge in Howard's tone chipped away at her calm exterior. His questions were blunt, laced with skepticism, forcing her out of the polished soundbites she had prepared. Listeners across the country leaned in as Meghan shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She insisted she was misunderstood, painted unfairly by tabloids, targeted because of her background. Howard nodded, but then turned the screws tighter, asking if she thought she had also contributed to her own negative press. Meghan bristled, accusing the media of bias. Howard interrupted her mid-sentence, his voice booming, "Come on, Meghan, are you saying you're completely blameless? No mistakes, nothing at all." The studio went silent for a moment, tension crackling in the air. The clash escalated. Meghan's tone sharpened as she accused Howard of perpetuating the same invasive narrative she had fled the UK to escape. Howard, never one to retreat, leaned forward and said, "I'm not the British tabloids. I'm asking what the people want to know. Why should anyone believe you when every bridge behind you is burning?" Meghan's face hardened. Her team outside the booth shifted nervously, motioning for Howard's producers to intervene, but the host kept going, relentless. For the next 20 minutes, the interview teetered on the edge of civility. Meghan tried to regain control, redirecting the conversation to her charity work and advocacy, but Howard kept circling back, questioning her motives, her contradictions, her decision to walk away from the monarchy while still capitalizing on its fame. Meghan's voice grew heated. She raised her hand, cutting him off mid-question, declaring she would not sit there and be interrogated like a criminal. Howard smirked, remarking that she was on a talk show, not a coronation, and the listeners deserved authenticity, not rehearsed speeches. The breaking point came when Howard asked about Prince Harry. He pressed Meghan on whether she had pressured him into leaving his family behind, suggesting that the once proud prince had been reduced to playing second fiddle in her quest for spotlight. Meghan slammed her hand on the desk, her voice rising, "How dare you? You don't know my marriage, you don't know my husband, and you have no right to question the love we share." The outburst stunned the room. Howard, unfazed, leaned back in his chair and said calmly, "If you can't handle questions, maybe you're in the wrong studio." Silence hung heavy before Meghan stood abruptly, adjusting her blazer with trembling hands. Her team rushed into the studio, whispering frantically, but she brushed them off. "This is a joke," she said, her voice quivering with anger. "I came here in good faith, and all you've done is humiliate me." Howard, staring at her with a mix of defiance and disdain, replied, "No one forced you to come here. You wanted to tell your story. Well, the truth doesn't bend just because you walked into the room." The producers tried to defuse the situation, but Meghan grabbed her purse, glared at Howard, and muttered, "You're nothing but a bully hiding behind a microphone." Howard responded with a sardonic chuckle, telling his listeners, "Well, folks, there you have it. Meghan Markle leaving the building. Guess honesty wasn't on the itinerary today." The sound of the studio door slamming reverberated in listeners' ears across the country. For the next 10 minutes, Howard dissected what had just happened, taking live calls from fans. Some applauded him for holding Meghan accountable, praising him for saying what others were too afraid to. Others criticized him, saying he had ambushed her, showing no respect for someone already battered by the media. The phone lines burned with arguments, each caller more animated than the last. It was chaos, exactly the kind of chaos Howard Stern thrived on. Meanwhile, Meghan was whisked out of the building by her handlers, cameras flashing outside as reporters scrambled for soundbites. She ignored their questions, face set in stone, though inside she felt the sting of defeat. She had come to reshape her public image, but instead, she had walked straight into a storm. Her team issued a carefully worded statement hours later, calling the interview an example of hostile media treatment, but the clip of her storming off had already gone viral, dominating social feeds worldwide. Back in the studio, Howard closed the show with his trademark grin audible in his voice. "You never know what'll happen when the mic goes hot," he said. "Some people can handle it. Some can't. That's the beauty of live radio." He signed off, leaving his listeners buzzing, the clash already cemented as one of the most explosive moments in his show's history. By evening, the world was split. Some saw Meghan as a victim of yet another ambush. Others believed Howard had exposed the cracks in her polished armor. Hashtags trended, pundits debated, and clips replayed endlessly on TV screens. For Howard, it was just another day at the office. For Meghan, it was another battle lost in the endless war of public perception. And for the millions who had listened live, it was radio gold, 50 minutes of raw, unpredictable drama that no script could have manufactured.